What's up, everybody? It's your boy Stephen J, and I'm here with Simply Steve, and we're talking about wrestling, WWE, WWF, UWF, AWA, WCW, ECW, and maybe a little bit of TNA. So let's get right into it. Monday Night Raw was last night, and we're gonna talk about it. But I'm gonna start it off a little bit different. Was there anything that stood out to you on Monday Night Raw last night? Anything that stood out?
I'm just gonna say this. I don't know if he's got what he's gonna say, but they didn't mention anything about CM Punk at all. But the fact that he responded, I don't know. Or are you going with the fact that there was no Brock Lesnar?
I'm asking you. Is there anything that stood out for you? Like, oh man, this was great.
No. Yeah. Raw was just average. I don't think there really anything that really stuck out to me.
Okay. So nothing stuck out to him on Raw last night. And though I gonna sure it ain't nothing stuck out to me, that was the worst episode of Raw of 2014. I didn't even watch it live because I was putting on brakes on my car last night, and daggone lug nuts wouldn't come off. So by the time I finally got that, Raw was over, and went upstairs last night, and I was watching it. Fast forwarding through the commercials, and I was just like, nothing's happening whatsoever that I really wanted to see or talk about. Nothing interested me at all. So, what we're gonna do right now is the hottest story of the last week was CM Punk finally came out the closet, and he finally talked about why he left.
Such a sad story.
The company. And yesterday was the Vince McMahon interview on Stone Cold Steve Austin's podcast. Which, first of all, I listened to the Punk interview. I think the day after it came out, because it was on Bleacher Report. No, I saw it on TMZ first, the clips, and then went on YouTube, listened to the whole almost 2 hours of the interview with him and Colt Cabana. First of all,
who's that anyway?
Colt Cabana, he's a wrestler, indie wrestler. He never really made it into the big leagues. Not that I remember. He's a friend of CM Punk's. They were in the indies together. First of all, almost 9 minutes of daggone commercials before he actually got to the interview with CM Punk. Nobody got time for that, but I understand.
It's a podcast.
He gotta pay bills. He gotta pay bills. So, but still, 8 minutes of commercials. WWE 2K15, whatever. Anyway, I listened to it, and Punk says that he didn't quit. He got fired.
He got fired on his wedding day.
I listened to the whole interview, and it definitely gives me a different perspective as far as CM Punk. Basically, well, I'll let you start. Tell me did you listen to the interview?
Yeah,
did you listen to the whole thing?
Yeah.
So what stood out with you on CM Punk's interview? Because we're not talking about Monday Night Raw because Raw was whack last night.
I'm glad, because after listening to that, I was like, look, we got to talk about this whole CM Punk thing. I said, Raw is probably not going to be any different anyway unless something big happens. So the biggest thing I took from it, basically perspective, was that Punk was treated bad. I mean, so many ideas that he had bringing to the table, Vince would turn it down. He'd be hurt, and Vince would make him work anyway. It was just so bad. And the fact that he had some kind of disease where he could have died from, and the WWE doctor didn't want to treat it, but instead of giving him antibiotics, I was like, okay, dang. If that was me, I would have been left too. So, it was just a bunch of crazy stuff and then he was like, but the one thing that did stick out to me was he was like, the final straw was when he got fired on his wedding day. And he was like, all right, that's it, I'm done with this. So, I mean, he said he's done with wrestling, and I'm like, okay, but he was making it sound like it might have been a slight chance that
I didn't remember hearing him saying he was done.
Well, he said his lawyer said that he hated wrestling or whatever like that. So, and when he said that they sent him his papers that he was fired on his wedding day, you know, he was giving some kind of slight indication that he may have come back one day, may have. But the fact that he got his termination papers on his wedding day was like the final straw. So I was like, okay, all right.
I don't think.
I said slight. I didn't say possibility. I said slight.
Well, in the whole interview, I didn't take it to the point that he's never coming back. And I don't think that it was the quote-unquote getting fired on his wedding day that was the straw that broke the camel's back. I don't even blame, I kind of blame Vince McMahon, but yet I don't blame Vince McMahon. Maybe 60-40, because he's the owner of the company. But the part that I really blame is Triple H.
Yep.
I gotta blame Triple H. Obviously, Punk doesn't like Triple H. Triple H, for some reason, doesn't like CM Punk. We saw the whole story on the WWE Network about CM Punk, which was greatly done. I liked it. And basically, he was busting his butt in the indie, and he was busting his butt down in Ohio Valley Wrestling. And Paul Heyman was like lobbying for him, yo, we got a guy down here. He's got something. We need to bring him up. But he had to go through so much crap to finally get Punk up. And when Punk finally came, they didn't really like him and stuff like that. But the whole you're hurt nature of the business, and Vince calls him and, hey, I heard you better. Good, we need you, this, that, and the other. Well, the fact is, that's not something new, because even Stone Cold, when he was hurt and he was at ECW, he cut promos. Paul Heyman cut promos. So, on that aspect, him wrestling right after, I disagree. That shouldn't have happened. But I think he had enough clout to say, nah, dude. Or just not answer the daggone phone. Or he should have flat out like, oh no, I am just so hurt right now that I can't do it. But here's the other thing. I also could hear that CM Punk loved wrestling. He loved his job. And he loved performing for the fans. So I also read into that as well. What else?
He didn't get, I know he said he didn't get paid fairly or equal pay to what like Taker and Brock, Triple H.
I would like to know what their pay scale is on. And based off of what I got from him, which he really enlightened me on a lot, but it sounds like he's paid based on the buy rates of the pay-per-views, and he's paid based on the merchandise. Because he was, I guess, right after the pipe bomb is when he was outselling John Cena as far as the t-shirts. And jumping to Vince McMahon just for a second in his interview with Stone Cold Steve Austin, John Cena is Vince McMahon's son. So he's the golden boy.
Yeah, I didn't see it, but I read about it. And
he's the golden boy. Everybody has to measure up to John Cena. So, and Punk was outselling him. So Punk is outselling John Cena as far as merchandise. And then they say, well, we want you to go back heel now. Which, again, technically, when he dropped the pipe bomb, he wasn't really a face per se, but he was kind of that anti. He was in the middle.
It's when he came back after he supposedly his contract really was up after he beat Cena at Money in the Bank. What do you call it? Vince, I think he said, convinced him, and he kind of convinced himself to come back because he really was going to leave with the belt. But it was when he came back, he was, I guess you can say, a face at that point. But again, he did say The Rock wants to face a heel. He doesn't want to face a face. So they had, and Punk was a champion, so he had to turn him heel. No, I mean, unless he's gonna, but he didn't want to drop the title, so.
But see, here's the thing: where they dropped the ball on that. Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, two faces of the company. Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker, the first time, the real first time.
25 or
the real first time when they faced for the title for the first time. Shawn Michaels was a champion.
In that casket match?
I think so. When Shawn Michaels was champion, Undertaker was going for the belt, and it was a great storyline. And just to stop for a second, the Undertaker was like, someone had to tell the story of the destruction of the Undertaker, and you were supposed to be that one, but now he was like, I got to take you out. So when they first two faces in the company going at each other at the same time. So it's not unheard of that two popular guys going at it at the same time, or two heels going at it. I go back to the Four Horsemen and the Midnight Express when they went at it for the tag team title.
Shield and the Wyatt family, they were both heel at the time. Even though the crowd liked them, they were technically heel.
So they didn't have to do that, and I understand it was The Rock or whatever, but Punk was popular. Could he have bested The Rock? I think he probably could have. It would have been interesting to see if he could have went toe to toe, mic to mic with The Rock.
There's actually, I know we're all seeing Punk, but there's a time where he always comments on it. But he was a time back when Darren Brown, was popular and the Yes Movement was really big at the time. He was like actually that he could have actually done the Rock at that time as well during his time. And while the Yes Movement was big, so I was like, yeah, he might have.
Man, it makes you think that my wife's food is harder. But what else did I take out from the interview? Was there anything else that stuck out to you with Punk's interview?
Let's see here. Oh, he I don't know if this is important, but he could have had a shot at what do you call it? At a movie, but
Triple H.
Yeah, Triple H gave it to Randy Orton.
I'm glad because the movie sucked anyway. But like,
Punk could have made it better.
He wouldn't have made it better. Nobody has. They done used John Cena, Ted DiBiase, Randy Orton, Kane,
The Miz,
and
Big Show.
The Miz and the Big Show. They all suck. They all just suck. The movie sucked.
I know The Rock's the greatest, but I mean, someone other than The Rock from WWE has to eventually.
They can't act. The Miz wants to be an actor. He wants to go the way of The Rock, but he has no charisma. So, what else stuck out for me? Again, like I said, Punk getting hurt and Vince calling him right after surgery. That to me shows Punk's dedication to us, the fans. That he was like, he could have been like, I'm still hurt, no, but he did it anyway. The thing about the staph infection, I had to look that up because I've never seen a staph infection. That's some nasty stuff. I googled it. It's nasty. Mm-hmm. And the fact that it got that bad shows that their lack of compassion as far as we just want you to go out here and wrestle, this, that, and the other. And based on Punk's answer, and here's the thing, there's two sides to every story, and in the middle lies the truth. So you're looking at Punk's side, but on Punk's side, I can kind of believe him as far as like the doctor didn't want to do anything, and I can see Triple H behind that whole thing. I can see Triple H behind that whole thing. Triple H, again, is a John Cena's boy.
Triple H is also?
Yeah, he loved John Cena. The shocking thing about it, because I really thought that Punk was going to say, I don't like John Cena.
He said he ain't got no problem with John.
He says he doesn't have any problem with John. I was shocked and laughing when he brought up Ryback. Obviously, he's putting it out there that possibly Ryback may be on some roids, aka Skip Sheffield. But the fact that Ryback hurt him,
he was like, he kicked him, but he was like,
tell me After, I guess he's supposed to drop him on the table, and he missed the table completely.
I don't remember.
And then
maybe he was in a house show or something.
And he was like, Ryback never came and apologized to him. Which I'm trying to think. If you look at a lot of stuff on WWE Network about guys getting hurt, the wrestler that did it, that injured them by accident, always came and apologized. That's just the unwritten rule.
What's the name? Didn't apologize. I guess that's a one-time thing. When Owen hurt Stone Cold, he said he didn't apologize.
And we can do about it now. Anyway, Ryback didn't apologize, so Punk was mad about that. And then I guess Vince put him back in there, even though Punk said, I don't want to work with this guy, he sucks, he can't wrestle, I don't want to work with him. Vince was like, please do it. Then Ryback kicked him in the ribs.
And it was like he wanted to start over with him, whatever. Like
and
that.
Then Punk was like, tell me you're a dumb F. You're a really dumb F, or you did it on purpose. And he was like, no, I'm a dumb F. I'm a dumb F. And I can see Ryback doing that. So after hearing that, Ryback kind of lost some kind of cool points with me after what Punk said. And the funny thing is, they said the same thing about Goldberg. And I can't remember who it was that wrestled Goldberg and Goldberg hurt him. Was it Scott Steiner? No, Bret Hart. I think Bret Hart wrestled Goldberg and Goldberg hurt him. And a couple of people say Goldberg did the same thing, but he couldn't wrestle. But I found that to be funny that he singled out Ryback. He gave credit to Daniel Bryan.
He created the Shield.
The Shield was his idea, which they stole.
Triple H stole.
What else? He loves. What was I found interesting was the Royal Rumble with Rusev. Tell me what you want to do, and Rusev was scared to do anything. But then Kofi Kingston, and he gave mad props to Kofi, which he again, I think he said that he's underused. And I'm trying to think, did Punk bring up Ziggler?
No,
he didn't bring up Ziggler. What else?
Nothing I can really think of right now. I think we hit all the key points on
Punk,
that.
the whole European thing. It kind of made the WWE seem heartless. Well, he's getting stitched up. Oh, I need you to sign this so you can get your passports to go overseas. What? Sign this so you can go overseas. What else? I'm trying to think. The infamous meeting between him, Vince McMahon, and Triple H.
Oh, the day he left.
And I like Punk for the simple fact that he basically is real, and that he says it like it is, and that he basically challenges you to basically tell him the truth whether you like him or not.
You know what? It's funny you say that, bring that up, because he in that little secret meeting they had, he brought up a lot of stuff, and he challenged Triple H to say it, and he was like, Triple H didn't respond back because he knew it was true. Like he was like, he's like at WrestleMania 29, Triple H versus him versus The Undertaker was the best match of the night, and he was like, then tell me I got paid equally paid like you and the rest of everybody else. And Triple H didn't say anything, and he was like, exactly. Because he knew it was true. I don't know if Triple H is, and I don't think he is, in charge of the whole who gets paid how much, but damn. I mean, I don't remember it being. It was one of the greatest one of the best matches.
I don't remember. I'm trying to think.
We've always compared it to his.
Wasn't that when he faced The Undertaker? Who was the main event?
John Cena and Rock 2.
Rock 2? Rock 2,
the Rock 1 was better.
Yeah, it didn't have that flair. So that's why it's not as memorable, because Rock had a torn shoulder or whatever.
He got injured in the match, but I mean, we on this show we've always compared Punk's and Taker's matches to other Taker matches, but as far as that night, I guess you can say it was better because Brock and Triple H was, I mean, it was a no disqualification match, so I mean, it's easy to say all the destruction that happened. You already knew it, but as far as saying the best of the night, I guess it was. It just didn't live up to like last year where it was Triple H and Undertaker in the Hell in a Cell, or Triple H and
I'm gonna have to go online and see it, the Punk match, because to me it didn't. The Shawn Michaels 1 WrestleMania match left the memory that this was good. The Shawn Michaels 2, not so much. I thought 1 was still better. The Triple H
Shawn's last match, so I can still remember it.
The Triple H Undertaker Hell in a Cell match left a memory. That was memorable. CM Punk Undertaker, unfortunately, I can't say that was memorable because I can't remember anything significant happening. I just remember he lost and he wasn't on Raw for a few months, and I think that's when he got hurt.
No, at that point he was like he needed some time off because he actually wanted time off after dropping the Rock the title, dropping the title to the Rock. But Vince was like, "No, I need you to work."
I owe you one.
Yeah, he said that like 3 times to him. He said he was like, "I need you to work filming Elimination Chamber." So he did it. Then he lost Taker, and then he was going for about 2 months before Vince called him back and said, "All right, let's go. Trying to get to work."
Well, here's the thing. Do you believe everything that CM Punk said? First of all, I like you, Punk. You cuss too much, dude. You cuss way too much.
That could have been part of the reason. I mean, I was thinking, did he really go up and like talk to people like that, or is he just exaggerating how he feels now? Because if someone came up to you talking like that, I'm like, I just don't like you at all.
The only person I know that can talk to Vince in a negative tone will be Stone Cold, The Rock,
really like
and John Cena.
Really like backstage. Because I remember Colt was like, does anyone really ever go to Vince and be like, no, this idea sucks? And he was like, the only person who does that is John Cena. But when you're saying that, do they do that actually backstage? Like, no, I don't effing want to do this, or that's just TV.
Anyway,
I don't know.
Some of them do it. Well, they did it a lot in WCW. WWE, not as much. What else? So the infamous meeting between Vince, Triple H, and Punk was telling Vince basically how he didn't get paid. He was like, "Well, you're facing Triple H." He was like, "No offense, I don't want to face you. You need to face me. Yeah. I don't need to face you." Which I agree. At that point, another side point that Punk pointed out was that he wanted to wear a logo, somebody else's logo, like they do in boxing. But Vince said no because the advertisers of the USA Network might get mad. But yeah, he let Brock do it. Something else happened that he says, but yet they did it anyway. Anyway, so basically in the meeting,
he wanted to walk somebody down to UFC, but he said no. Then he let Triple H walk Floyd
Mayweather. Yeah. So so the infamous meeting where he basically walks away, and
he said Vince was crying.
He said Vince teared up. I can believe Vince teared up because Vince teared up when Stone Cold retired, and when he put him in the Hall of Fame, Vince was tearing up. So I can believe that. Because, I mean, John Cena is the #1 guy in the company, but CM Punk usurped him as far as the #1 guy in the company.
It's also interesting because he said, and actually, I didn't see it, but I read some of what he said. He said he wasn't sure about guys like Cesaro being good enough to do it because he said he don't got like no verbal skills. He said Dean Ambrose.
We're not talking about that yet.
What?
We're not talking about the Vince McMahon.
Well, because I'm saying he mentioned something about Punk in the thing.
Anyway, so
because Stone Cold asked him,
he walked, and then he got the whole thing. He talked about his royalty check, which obviously, here's what I think: CM Punk lives in an apartment, and so what I understand from the video, I remember he doesn't like all these other guys go buy a mansion that you got to spend $1,000 or $10,000 a month or a week just to maintain and keep the lights on and stuff like that. he lives in an apartment. He said he looked at his bank account and he's like, oh, I got a lot of money here. And so he was able to walk away with a clear conscience because I guess it's a built up frustration over time. And then the royalty checks at the end was like, how come I didn't get my check yet? And then they were trying to play with him, which I can believe because I've seen stories about them doing that. And just so infamously getting being fired on the day that he's getting married. Again, that's crazy. So we jump to the Vince McMahon interview, which I also thought was a good interview. And for pretty much, there was a lot that I found that I did not believe Vince McMahon. There was a lot that I felt that he was believing. First thing, Stone Cold asked him, he's like, hey, can we talk about CM Punk? And Vince was like, okay, yeah. He said, first off, I want to apologize. He says, I had no idea that he was getting married that day. We'll see on this Wednesday when Punk does his follow-up with Colt Cabana and answer questions from the fans. By the way, I tried to send a question in for the email address that Colt Cabana gave. It came back as undeliverable. So either the mailbox was full because everybody's asking questions or what. But he apologized for the thing. He says, we had no idea that he was getting married that day, but he did off, which was cool and that was classy. He didn't go into depth as far as what CM Punk said. He only said that there was two sides to everyone's story, and he said that was what Punk perceived that was going on. And when you listen at Vince McMahon's talk and you listen to CM Punk's interview, right in the middle of that is Triple H that no one talked about. And I think the problem is because Stone Cold brought it up when he walked away from the company. And he says when he walked out for like similar reasons that Punk did, he says he was gone for 8 months and then he got the postcard from Jim Ross said, hey, whenever you need to talk, give me a call. And he called and they talked for 3 hours and he said Jim Ross was like, hey, if I can get you and Vince into a room together, would you be willing to do it? He said, yeah, I'll do it. And he asked Vince, is it possible for Punk to come back to the company if there was a Jim Ross? And Vince admitted it. He says there was a lack of communication on his side and there's a lack of communication on Punk's side. As far as he said, if there had been like a Jim Ross in the middle, he doesn't think that CM Punk would have walked away from the company because it was just a bad communication, that stuff was just happening. So for the most part, I'm going to go and I believe Vince with what he said. Stone Cold asked him how Shane O'Mac doing. Vince says Shane is doing good. He's CEO from his company, he has a motorcycle company. He has his hands, basically Vince says, and he was like it was a mutual agreement when Shane left the company, but he basically said he's proud of Shane for what he's doing. And he went on through a couple stories or whatever and stuff like that. Stone Cold asked him about The Undertaker. And Stone Cold said, hey, he says, I was just as shocked as that guy with the eyes. Oh, he was talking about you. No, y'all think that he looks like that guy like this? He does. So Stone Cold was like, I was shocked just like that guy was. And he was like, who came up with that decision? So Vince started off talking about, well, you know, nobody loves the company more than Mark Calloway, Undertaker. And always puts the company first. And, you know,
I can believe that because I hardly ever see him.
And he says, he started going on about how the Undertaker loves the company and always wants to put what's best for the company first. And so Stone Cold cut him off like, hold up. You're trying to tell us that the Undertaker made the decision to end the streak? And Vince was like, no. He was like, oh, I'm about to say, because I know you made that decision. And he was like, yeah, I felt that the time was right for the streak to end. And he said, if it's going to end, I needed to get somebody over to get some heat and some clout to end the streak, and who best was it at the time to end the streak other than Brock Lesnar? And he was like, the Undertaker obviously agreed with it or whatever. And I guess he didn't really balk at it. I think he maybe should have. I think if he would have said, nah, I think I don't want to lose. But I guess because Brock and Undertaker are friends, he didn't really balk at the idea of losing to him.
Him and Shawn are friends. Him and Triple H are friends. He could have lost to one of them.
No. I wouldn't have lost it all.
You said you've been okay with it.
To who?
If he had lost to Shawn and
I never
won,
said that.
yes, you did. He said,
No, I did.
Okay, you said you don't not remember. I know he said that, but that's his name.
I don't say that. So then he asked him about Brock Lesnar. He said, where is he? Vince says, well, like we all thought, he said that Brock has a contract. And in that contract, it states that he's allowed so many appearances. But then here's the bullcrap where you don't believe Vince. So he goes on and says, well, I think that's best for business how we got it. He says, who wants to see Brock Lesnar every week beating up everybody? And he says, after a while, he says, we see him on Monday and on SmackDown, and he's beating up everybody. He says, if he doesn't beat up everybody, it kind of gets stale after a while. Nobody wants to see it. But so Stone Cold was like, but can we get a little bit more appearances out of him? And he was like, we haven't seen him since this. I mean, at least once a week or something like that. And he was like, well, I think that it's a good decision, you know, based on the, you know, the contract that we got him on. And
I told you he could come in whatever, but for some reason, I guess now we know it's Vince's idea that we don't need him to come in.
So Vince, he can. I'm sure Brock can come in, but in his contract he says he doesn't want to come in. So again, you have a WWE champion who's holding the title.
Well, again,
and you're not defending the title for like the third straight. Again, this was a stupid move. This is what's not best for business. This is what's bonehead for business, because if the quote-unquote world heavyweight champion, whoever it may be, is the face of the company, you have no face.
Okay, now I know Brock's a champion, so he has to come in, he has to defend it. But if Brock was not the champion, would we be having this conversation? It would be normal if we didn't see Brock again until the WrestleMania time or Royal Rumble time. It'd been normal.
Hold on, no, I wouldn't care because he's not the champion. I wouldn't care because he's not the champion. My problem is because
he is the champion.
He is the champion.
Okay, I'm just saying, like, wait, if he wasn't champion, okay, let's say, because so if he wasn't champion, we wouldn't care if he wasn't here.
Yeah, if he wasn't here, and that's just what Brock does. And he comes for a pay-per-view, he wins or loses, and then he leaves, and that's it. That's all you see. But he's a champion, so I mean, come on, you can't have it like that. And I still think this is what's done for business, because that's the icon of the World Wrestling Federation. World Wrestling Entertainment is the heavyweight title, whether the guy's a heel or face. And so I don't believe in what Vince was saying. Oh yeah, I think it's best for business that he does that. And he didn't say when Brock was actually going to be back. He did not say when Brock Lesnar was going to be back. So he's obviously not going to be in TLC. And even though John mentioned him or whatever, it doesn't look like he's going to be back for the Royal Rumble either.
He could be.
I think what they need to do is strip him of the title, because quote unquote the rules were that the title must be defended once every 30 days. Once every 30 days is the title should be defended. He hasn't defended it in 3 months. Then if that's the case, then why don't you take the title from Daniel Bryan? Why'd you take the title from Daniel Bryan? Get that man his title back.
Okay, but the difference is we don't know when Daniel Bryan's coming back.
Okay.
And Daniel Bryan's hurt.
Okay, but still, we don't know when Brock is coming back.
But Brock ain't hurt, so he can come back anytime.
I don't care. I don't care. He got the title. He needs it again.
Sitting at home on his
He's sitting home on his butt, where in the woods where he lives, because he has some stupid fear of living near people. What you about 6'6", 300 pounds UFC fighter, built like like a machine and you scared of people. Man, that's the kind of people that you kill, murdering people because he's a schizophrenic, paranoid person. Get the heck out of here.
How you know he's scared of living near people?
Because I read the article on it, like where Brock Lesnar is, and they said he had a house in Minnesota. And as soon as some person moved like within a mile of his house, he sold the house and moved someplace else in a remote location. Somebody moved there, then he sold that house and moved someplace else because he doesn't want people living near him. What you doing, Brock? Growing weed?
He shouldn't be working at WWE if he don't like people.
Shoot, he might have found Bigfoot. He don't want nobody to find him. Shoot. So next, Stone Cold asked Vince about as far as the locker room, because Stone Cold went into the locker room and he says that when he goes into the locker room, he's always challenging the guys in the locker room. Come on, you got to do something exciting. Again, attitude era. You got whatever's going on out there. You have to have the mindset that you want to top it. And he was like, you got a bunch of young guys. So Vince named Bray Wyatt. Vince named Dean. He named the Shield. He named the Shield, and
Cesaro, I think
and Stone Cold brought up Cesaro, and he was like, "You guy's a great athlete." Stone Cold said he's physical, and Vince says the problem with Cesaro is he doesn't have it. He doesn't have charisma, and he doesn't have any mic skills, so he doesn't have it. So then Stone Cold grandly says, "Well, hold up. After you guys broke him up with Jack Swagger, Cesaro was on a roll." And he was the Queen of Swing, the Swiss Superman. Y'all was calling him. He had a huge following. He was getting huge pops every time he came out. But he did. Stone Cold said, but then for some reason you guys stuck him with Paul Heyman, and then people are like, well, can I boo him? Should I boo him now because he's with Paul Heyman and he's guilty by association? And then you took him from Paul Heyman and now you left him in limbo. So he was like, you can't really blame him when you guys did that. So that's when Vince was like, well, he doesn't have it. So that tells me when Cesaro made that comment about John Cena, people are tired of seeing John Cena and he so-called got blacklisted. And now all of a sudden he's on this losing streak or whatever. And Vince is saying again, because Vince says, Vince even said, he says, the problem in the locker room is that nobody goes at it like John Cena. John Cena grabbed the rings and he wanted it bad enough, and I don't see that in the locker room or this, that, and the other. But the other thing that I was surprised at, he did not mention Dolph Ziggler. I don't know if it's because he said the up and coming. But Dolph Ziggler is that guy that's drawing heat now. They didn't mention Daniel Bryan.
Did it? Or?
He did not. But when Stone Cold was like, he had a huge pop, and even Stone Cold talked about it that when him and Brett fought, Brett was like, hey, in order for us to sell it, I think you need to bleed. And Stone Cold was like, okay, all right, well. And if that's what we got to do, let me check with Vince first. And Vince was like, yeah, I think that'll be a good idea for you to bleed. And he was like, I didn't know that I was going to get a huge pop the way I did after losing that match. He says, I was going to put Brett over, and Brett was happy with that. He said, I was comfortable with it. He says, but I didn't think it was going to take off from that as far as me getting a huge pop. Cesaro was getting a huge pop as the King of Swing, the Swiss Superman. JBL was doing his job and selling him to all of us.
And then he stopped doing the swing.
And whose dumb idea was that?
Probably Vince.
No, probably Triple H. Because again, he spoke out against their golden boy, John Cena. And again, I had a problem that he didn't mention Dolph Ziggler or whatever, but he said the locker room nobody had, because he basically compared the locker room now to what it was in the Attitude Era, and he says you guys were after, and the difference is there was another company. They were going against WCW.
I told you.
So
TNA has no. I told you. TNA.
Hold on, Stone Cold brought up. Stone Cold brought up TNA. He was like, well, you got no competition. He's like, I don't mean to slight TNA because they are out there. He says, but as far as like WCW was, you don't really have any competition. So Vince, again, tried to play it off. We do have competition. We have, on Monday nights against football. And he was like, no, I'm talking about wrestling competition, sports entertainment like you. He said, you have no competition like that. Matter of fact, I scheduled to record Lucha Underground this Wednesday at 11 o'clock. I'm going to check it out to see if it's any good. And I'm going to give my report on it next week.
See Chavo.
So then they asked him, Stone Cold asked him, is Macho Man ever going to be in the Hall of Fame? Vince said he will one day. He's like, I don't know about this year. It's coming up. And but he will be. And Stone Cold said, hey, he should have been in there a long time ago. He's definitely one of the superstars that deserves to be in there. Is he going to be in there? And Vince was like, yeah, I said he was. And he was like, so what you saying? So Stone Cold gave him his little long stare. And he was like, what? He was like, so you're saying that it's definitely that he's going to get in there? He was like, yes, Macho Man will be in the Hall of Fame. I think the man died, I don't know, 5 years ago or whatever. And again, I don't know if the rumors are true that he slept with Stephanie and stuff like that. That's why Vince got a problem with Macho Man. But put the man in the Hall of Fame. Put the man in the Hall of Fame. Then he asked him about Sting and what his role is. And Vince McMahon compared Sting to Brock Lesnar as far as, here's a guy that you don't want making a lot of appearances. I can agree with that. You don't want Sting making a lot of appearances, and not because of the contract, but simply because Sting is old. That's why, and he can't. So again, you give Brock Lesnar a part-time contract. Triple H has a part-time contract. Sting has a part-time contract, but yet you won't still sign Kurt Angle? What the heck is wrong with that? That's not what's best for business. If you want Rusev over as a good heel, and I mean a heel for life, because I can never see Rusev ever turning face. There's certain guys who's heels for life, and that's just all they'll ever be is a heel for life.
Big Show and Mark Henry is one of them.
So Rusev, you got to bring in Kurt Angle, because if you're going to try to start this feud like they're doing with Jack Swagger again,
which they are doing over again,
because he beat up Jet Zet, get that. Come on, who wants to see that?
Well, it looked like Jack
Eat, sleep, conquer, repeat. That's the thing. Eat, sleep, and repeat. Eat, sleep, and repeat. What are they gonna do? Mark Henry again? Then Big Show again? Then back to Jack Swagger again? Get that, come on.
Go Big E. Oh, well, it looks like Jack Swagger got his purpose back. Now he can go up against Rusev again.
All right, so Stone Cold asked him about the Monday Night Wars, and he was like, was it your goal to put Ted Turner, WCW, out of business? He was like, no. He said that was their goal, and they tried to do that to me. He says, I always felt that we had the better product. And he was like, even when they had Hogan, Hall, and Nash, and NWO, he still felt that the WF had a better product. I'm sorry, I have to disagree with Vince on that. Hold on. When the NWO formed, no, let's even start. When Hall, Nash, well, they formed basically right after that anyway. So when Hall, Nash went to WCW, because even with Hulk Hogan, as big as he was, when he got signed to WCW, that didn't boost them in the ratings on Monday nights. It didn't do anything. But when they got Hall and Nash and they formed the NWO, I'm sorry, WCW did have the better product.
Because of the NWO?
Because of the NWO. They had great wrestlers. I thought the Luchadors, by far, they were the best ever. Dean Malenko, Chris Benoit, those boys, great wrestlers. They were great mid-carders. Chris Jericho, mid-carders. They were doing it right at that time, and they had a better product. So Vince was lying as far as during that time, because WWE was still doing gimmicks. As far as, he has powers. And,
are you sure? I thought around NWO time, that's when they started to emerge Stone Cold around that time.
About that time, but during that time, it wasn't until they got rated R that WWE started having a better product. And it proved it in the ratings. And I did
84 weeks. They were the ratings.
Yeah, and here was a shocker that Stone Cold said, "What's the beef between you and JR?" I didn't know JR wasn't a part of the company anymore. And he said Vince said that something happened last year in Los Angeles at their 2K14, and apparently JR said something that he felt was disrespectful. And I brought it up on my computer at work, but I didn't have enough time to read it. And Jim Ross was fired because of that. And Stone Cold, I gotta give you, I love you, man. He was selling and he was petitioning for JR to get his job back, because Stone Cold goes into the fact that, you know,
if it wasn't for JR, he wouldn't have been better.
Right. He mentioned JR. He mentioned that, and he said that, you know, a lot of the things he says, as far as knowledge-wise, JR has a lot of knowledge when it comes to wrestling and storylines and what works and what doesn't work. And as far as, and he was like, I think if you had a JR like, the whole Punk situation wouldn't happen. And he was like, the storylines that you're doing now, he was like, I think JR will be able to basically help you out in that quarter. So he was basically saying, pleading for JR's job back, or pushing for JR to get his job back. And Vince was like, I'll never say never, that it can't never happen again. But he also said that JR had wanted to retire and wanted to go back home to Oklahoma and stuff like that. I put it like this. As much as Stone Cold and The Rock, DX, sold and got the WWE over as far as the ratings, you cannot deny Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler for their role in getting it over and getting those guys over, because they did the color commentary and the play-by-play to those guys. I'm sorry, I'm not really a Michael Cole fan, but as far as the best ring announcers and play-by-play guy, Jim Ross and Joey Styles are the best in the business. I like Jerry King as a sidekick and make me laugh, and JBL as a guy that's gonna make me laugh. Michael Cole is just a computer.
He's just the middle guy, literally.
He's just a computer. Also, Stone Cold talked to Vince about as far as their rivalry and how they went back and forth and how they brought out the best, and he was like, it's destiny. He was like, I think we worked well together and stuff like that. And Vince was talking about when they had the cage match and he fell on the table. He was like, the table was supposed to break, but the table did not break, and he had a big old split down his back. And he was talking about Stone Cold kicked him in the nuts a few times. So just to see them go back and forth, and he asked Vince when he'll ever retire, and Vince was like, I don't know. And he did ask Vince, he said, you put a lot of other guys out of the business as far as the territories where, and Vince was like, no. He says, I didn't. He says, when I bought my father's company, he says, I went to other territories and tried to buy them out. And he says, those guys were just getting rich off of the money that the wrestlers made. He says, when I started doing what I did, he says, I started putting money back into the company and putting money back into the product. And he says, that's how our territory expanded. And apparently, before WCW or NWA at the time, was Vince wouldn't go up against them because he, I guess, not Jim Crockett, but Cowboy Bill Wash, I think his name was. Vince said he was afraid of him because the guy was a genius as far as how he had his wrestlers do and how he was making money, and he was doing the same thing. But once Bill sold the company to Crockett, then that's when Vince went down there and like bought pieces of the company and whatever, and all that stuff. But overall, I thought the interview with Stone Cold did with Vince was it was a great interview. Stone Cold did a great job. Here's the funny part. Stone Cold goes, we got 1 minute left, this, that, and the other. And Vince was in the middle of talking about something. I can't remember what he was talking about. And Stone Cold, we got 1 minute left. And he was like, what do you mean? He was like, well, your guys are telling me that, you know, on the WWE Network, we got 1 minute left before it's do this. So you got to hurry up and tell me yada, yada, yada. And so Vince was like, well, this, that, and the other. And then Stone Cold goes 20 seconds. He was like, hold up. Vince goes, hold up. He says, whoever can hear me in the back, I own this daggone company. I own this network. Add 15 more minutes to the time. And they added 15 more minutes to the time just like that because Vince said it. So here's my take on the interview and Punk's interview and put them both together. This is why I say it's 60-40. And I'm going to say Vince because Vince has the final say. But at the same time, and I'm going to change it. I'm going to say, yeah, I'll keep it 60-40. I'll say 50-50 because Triple H had a big...
Triple H will be taking over.
And again, I hope that doesn't happen because I personally, in my own beliefs, that Triple H only married Stephanie. Stephanie's not a good-looking woman. I mean, she ain't ugly, but
she's okay.
She alright. But if I want to get in or in something solid, I'm going to marry the boss's daughter. I'm going to marry the boss's daughter, and I'm going to get a clear future of that. Personally, and I say it again, I think Shane McMahon would be great as a GM. And Vince told a story about Shane, how Shane basically went out and made it big for himself, and then he came back to the company. Stone Cold mentioned Triple H taking over, but if Shane comes back, I think Shane will be in line to take over the company. I think Shane turned out to be a great wrestler. His feuds that he had with Kane, and I can't remember who else he feuded with.
He did feud with DX.
And those were some good matches that he had. But who's telling the truth? Vince really didn't go in on CM Punk that much, but he left the door open that never say never that Punk can come back. Matter of fact, Stone Cold said that after he came back after 8 months, he said Vince fined him $650,000. So that tells me Stone Cold had to be making well over $1 million something for that. So Stone Cold was like, "Are you kidding me? 650?" And he was like, Vince was like, "Well, what do you think I should charge him?" And Stone Cold said, "How about 250,000?" And Vince said, "Okay, that's fair." And Stone Cold asked him, said, "Well, if I would have said 150, would you have taken that?" Vince was like, "I don't know what I would have chose then because it's too late now." But so that tells me that Vince has a say in it. But because Triple H is his son-in-law, he may go with what Triple H is saying, best for business. But I think, because even Stone Cold said that the guys in the locker room don't have it like they had in the Attitude Era, trying to get them to want it more and stuff like that. Dolph Ziggler's doing it now, and he said that. Stone Cold said, "You need to bring more guys in." He says you got the same guys. You need you guys got. This is where you got to go back to different brands, because if you had the different brands, you can basically showcase your different talents. I think Cesaro would have been a World Heavyweight Champion if he was on SmackDown, not with John Cena, and still have the Raw versus SmackDown brand. Stone Cold brought up that they got the NXT guys and stuff like that, which again, NXT is doing good. I like the wrestlers that they have in there. But I think the whole thing, I got to go with Punk, that he just got frustrated with the political BS, the bull crap from Triple H, I'm going to say. And he just got so...
So was it more Triple H's or was it more Vince's fault?
It's more Vince's fault because he's the final say. He said that. He said the final say is me or whatever. But I guarantee you that Triple H was the person in his ear. "Well, come on, Dad. You know this, that, and the other." And son, and all right, well, okay, this, that, and the other. So again, it falls on Vince because he has the final say. But if Triple H is the driving force, are you going to go against your son-in-law or your daughter? Because whatever Triple H says, I'm sure Stephanie's going to go along with him.
I think she actually said she doesn't even like CM Punk. Still, so.
Oh, and said Punk. That's what Punk mentioned. You gonna call me a quitter on TV? And that Stephanie did that. So that's the bad blood between him and Triple H.
You know, I'm gonna say this because I saw, even after everything that Punk had said, I did still see a report where it said that some people still do believe that he could come back. I mean,
I think he might come back because Vince says never say never. But to Vince's point, he said, and he pointed to Stone Cold. He said it's bigger than you, it's bigger than me. He said it's about the fans. And when you did what you did and what CM Punk did, he says you're not walking out on me and the company, you're walking out on the fans. Mm-hmm. So in essence, it's kind of twofold, but at the same time, I look at Punk getting frustrated over and over and finally walking out.
He said the big thing, and you know, I guess for the time being, it was good for him for leaving. He said the major reason why he left was because of his health. And you know, which is good. Like he said, if he had kept his stature,
I agree. Look at a lot of guys that Chris Candido died that way. A lot of these guys that commit suicide or die, Eddie Guerrero, because they perform hurt for the majority of their career. Kurt Hennig, a lot of guys died from painkillers because they were in pain so much because they did not have the opportunity to rest and heal up or anything like that. One last point, and this is the only thing from Raw I'm going to bring up because I saw it on SmackDown, and it's the New Day with Big E, Xavier Woods, and Kofi Kingston. As a black person, I am so offended by this. And I read somebody on the Facebook said, I hope people don't try the racial thing. I'm going to go racial on it for the simple fact, let's go through history. Junkyard Dog. He's a dancing man. Coco Beware. He's a dancing man. And a preacher. S.T. Jones. A dancing man. Big Mabel. When him and that other dude came in as a tag team. They were dancers. Yeah. Big Mabe. Mark Henry. Sexual chocolate. He's the lover. D'Lo Brown. He's a dancing man. Who else? Xavier Woods. Dancing. The Funkasaurus. Dancing.
Funkasaurus?
What's his name? Brodus Clay.
He ain't black.
Brodus is black.
I mean, if you want to say the with their girls, but still, they're black.
Why is it that the Kofi?
Booker wasn't
Booker. He was Spinner Rooney.
Ain't no dance.
So what? I said the majority of you can give me Booker T, you can give me The Rock, you can give me Ron Simmons.
Oh, dang, you're gonna have to go R-Truth too.
And I forgot about R-Truth. Ron Simmons, Ahmed Johnson, who's the champion of TNA, that guy, Bobby Lashley. But the majority of black athletes,
MVP, I mean, you got
MVP, he did a little dancing or whatever. But the majority of black athletes performers that come into WWF, they're relegated to that stereotype. Oh, you got to be dancing, you got to rap, you got to sing, you got to sound like a preacher. Remember Big E a couple months ago? Ha ha! But I want to tell you right now, who said ha? You're in America. And he started doing it the other night on SmackDown. Ha ha ha! What are you doing? You can't catch your breath. So I am so offended that is the only category that we are able to be placed in as a performer in the WWE. We got to be dancing and and we got a choir coming out. What kind of mess is that?
Coming out,
you got a choir as your background theme. So your promos is all choir and this, that, and the other. I am offended by that as a black man. And Vince said, Stone Cold asked me, he says, well, how can the WWE let you know that what they're happy about, what they're not happy about, this, that, and the other? Because if that's the case, because Vince says, oh, we always listen to the fans. That's the final authority right there. That's the real authority.
He said that's why they put Daniel Bryan over.
Well, again, if that's the case, why do you have the dumb anonymous Raw GM back, Vince, that nobody likes?
Actually, next week, Seth Green's in charge.
Again, they did that already. They're going back to, the guest GM.
We keep people in charge.
It didn't work. It was stupid. I like what Seth Rollins said. Bring Eric Bischoff back. Bring Eric Bischoff back.
I really don't think you want to bring the guy back and try to end your company.
Hey, he had him there before.
But what would eventually happen? Eventually Vince will do the same thing where he'll come back and he'll embarrass him and fire him again.
Well, I mean, say, I don't know. So,
I don't know if it's true or not. But you remember back at Survivor Series when Sting attacked Triple H and cost him the match? I don't know if it's true. It's a rumor, but it said that they might actually fight at the Royal Rumble instead, thus still setting up for Sting to come and wrestle Taker at WrestleMania. I don't know if it's true. I really don't, but I was like, they're gonna have Triple H and Sting fight at the Royal Rumble, and then they're gonna have Sting versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania.
I don't know. Even if, because Punk mentioned, Punk mentioned about pay-per-view buys. They get, I guess, a certain percentage based on pay-per-view, because he said, well, if you're going to go with the WWE Network, because he said Randy Orton came and asked him, well, how are we going to get paid if it's only $9.95 per month and whatever?
He was like, I don't know.
So again, he was, but both interviews were good. I'll be interested to see Punk answer questions and stuff like that. But again, funny Ryback lost cool points with me. I even sent CM Punk a tweet after I read. That's like, hey man, we didn't know. I'm sorry, man, we didn't know.
Well, now that it's out there, I've read a lot that it's going to affect WWE bad way, especially since WrestleMania is coming up in the next 3 months.
I think
it's going to affect them bad. I mean, again, as I said, people say he couldn't come back. I mean, the last thing we saw of him was him getting chokeslammed through a table.
Ooh.
Punk at the Royal Rumble earlier this year. So he may come back for one final match, but if he doesn't want to wrestle Triple H, who is he going to fight? I mean, he's already wrestled Taker. I mean, he's already wrestled The Rock. Stone Cold ain't going to come out of retirement. So who's really left for him to face? I mean, if he wants that main event match, who's he going to face?
We'll see.
Maybe Brock again? I don't know.
And I don't think they are doing right by their superstars as far as up and coming. And I think they are scared because of Triple H and Stephanie and this, that, and the other. Because guys that should have been, Bray Wyatt, because Vince mentioned him, that he's getting over. But you're doing with the Bray Wyatt what you did to Cesaro. You needed Bray Wyatt to stay a few, at least longer with Cena. That again, I still don't see
there Bryan got hurt.
Again, I don't see him and Dean Ambrose getting over just yet. So I don't know. So
Wyatt said their last match will be at TLC.
So we'll see. So that's about it for Stephen J. And for Simply Steve. No news about TNA and Kurt Angle
next month
or anything
January.
like that. So
we're gonna find out.
We shall see.
Maybe they can still be keeping it a secret that Kurt Angle's coming back.
Well, Royal Rumble's coming up, so they're gonna have to do it soon. So for Stephen J. and Simply Steve, we are done talking about wrestling. Peace.